Hello and welcome. Today, I have something interesting that I'm going to share with you, and that is a script I use on a few, if not a majority, of my projects. Essentially, it takes a statically generated website and turns it into a single-page application. That being said, and before you guys get yourself in a rut with this, because it is a statically generated website, search engines can still index it and can still creep through it in order to properly provide search engine optimization. Now, that's one of the benefits. Another benefit is that this script prevents reloading of resources that are used on every single web page that you have in this project. Now, this will lead to a much lighter project for your server to render and send requests with, and it will also provide a better user experience considering that it has the smooth feeling of a single-page application. Now, to show you guys the smooth feeling that I'm talking about, I have my portfolio here, which uses this script, and what it does is it just lets you transition easily between the web pages that you have defined, and it makes it quite simple. I mean, even the back functionality works. It just utilizes the history API. It's great. It works perfectly fine. To explain this script in detail, first you're going to need to fulfill two requirements. You need to include Page.js, and you also need to include Axios.js. These are the only two requirements that are needed for the script to work. Both of which are incredibly light. Won't really hinder the performance of your website at all. And I use them even without this script. They're still very beneficial to your website depending upon what you're doing with it. Alright, so let me begin this by saying this DOM element right here, this DOM variable that we're creating, is basically creating a new HTML document for us to test and to store our next page's information. We're going to test if our browser can support the template element, which is what we're going to use to store our requested pages HTML, just so that the resources do not load again. If your browser does not support the template element, it won't run it. It'll just run it like it is the statically generated website. Cool, nice fallback. All right, here's our function, the start mock SPA. First, grab all the links that we have in our document. Now, what I go through here is I'm going through all the links, and the only thing I want to really check with every link that we go through is if it's an internal link. If it's external, like CodePen, GitHub, or hell, even random websites like YouTube or something like that, I don't want it to be indexed. I don't want it to even be considered a link on this page for right now. Next, what we do is after we check if the link is internal, we create a page inside of Page.js. We pass the link's path name. From there, it creates a context for us. We pass the context path name to an Axios get function. After we do that, and when Axios get completes, it gives us back a response. If you're still following me, that's great. If not, what we do here is we basically create a page instance right here. Create a page instance. And then we send a request to the server to get the new path, to get the new page. After we get that page, which is our response, we want to create a variable called diff page, or different page, and it's going to be equal to that of our DOM elements, and create a new element inside of our DOM element called template, and store it in the diff page. Now I want to set the diff page inner HTML to that of our response data, which is our responses HTML. That's really it. Next, we want to set our documents inner HTML to the diff pages inner HTML, but it's not exactly just the documents inner HTML. I have an element in all of my web pages called app. It has the ID of app. I wrap everything in it, so everything visual you see on my portfolio is wrapped inside of app. We set app's inner HTML to that of the new page's inner HTML, essentially. That's really all it does, and it just swaps them around. Okay, once that occurs, once the inner HTML is set, we just run start mock SPA again. What this will do is, now with the new information on the page, it says, okay, give us our new links and run through the process again so we can continue to do this. That's cool. Now that's when the page is accessed. Now, this is just storing the information it needs to process for the time being. After we store that information, we want to create an event listener on all of our links. Of course, we want to prevent the default, and when the link is clicked, we want to just access the page. We want to just say, go to this page. That's really all this does. And that's really it for the function. It's not too complicated. It's quite easy to follow, quite easy to understand. I don't provide any comments in here because it's pretty self-explanatory, actually. If you don't understand it, ask me. I can explain it more in depth for you, if need be. Now, after we do our test, after the function is created, we want to just run it the first time to initialize it so it works properly. Now, I run page afterwards because you need to define all the pages prior to running page start, or page, which is the same thing. So what's going to happen is, if you don't run page, the history API and Page.js's functionality won't work properly. And you want it to work properly. Trust me. And that's really it. Before I go, I'm going to just say this. The script makes any application feel smoother, and it helps with the resource loading. So there's really no losing situation here. I mean, yeah, you're still sending a request to the page, but the browser isn't loading the resources, which means it's not pulling resources from the server. So you're saving some request time there. You're saving some load time on the client side, and you're saving some bandwidth overhead on the server as well, which is great on both fronts. At least I think so. And to me, that's just fantastic. It's amazing that can occur without complications. Now, I have had no issues with this yet on any project I've used this with. But if I do in the future, I will update this information promptly. And if you guys find any issues with it at all, let me know. I'll correct them, or I'll find some sort of way to work through it. If not, thanks for watching. And again, if you guys have any questions, just ask.